Got him. Good fish too. Good fish. Flipping it out there in the tree. Come on, son. Come on. Oh my goodness, look at there. Oh, a little pitching in there. I pitched right up in the tree. Oh, what a way to start a day right there, folks. Let me get that. I gotta pull out of here. I don't want to spook all the fish in the wood. Oh my goodness. Today, we are here at Alamo Lake and I am in the trees right now, pitching and flipping a weed pig bait. Look at that fish. Oh my goodness. Oh. That's the way to start the day, folks. Look at the mouth on that post spawn. Going into summer now, man. It's getting hot quick. Let's let that fish go. You know, Alamo Lake is so much fun to fish, and there's so many different areas to fish, but man, I love the wood. Anytime we can get around the wood, you have your Senkos, pitching and flipping gear, and that's what I'm doing today. And I'm thinking to myself, man, you know, top water's fun, that kind of stuff. In the morning, get it done, but man, I'll tell you what, when the fish start going a little bit deeper, they still love to hang around this wood. And they use it for ambush, where they can ambush their prey. So this is where that pitching and flipping comes in really good. And a lot of the good pitchers and flippers out there know what I'm talking about. They'll come in with those big bags because they know, and it's just, it actually gets monotonous throwing to the same, you know, going to the bush to bush to bush. But man, I'm telling you, if you can keep your focus on doing that type of stuff, you can catch a big bag of fish and have a lot of fun on your day out fishing. So we're gonna do a little bit of that. We're gonna just kind of sling around here and see what we can't do and catch a few of these fish. But I'll tell you what, that's a good start right there for our morning. You know, the key to success when you're doing this pitching and flipping is a lot of times you're in close quarters to where you're fishing. So it's really important to not be bumping your trolling motor, jumping around in the boat, making all kinds of noise. It's very important to be sure, because you are fishing close quarters, that you be kind of stealthy. Get it out there, and because you're, like I said, you're not pitching or flipping very far from the boat. So it's very important to make sure that you take your time and hit everything. That particular fish, when it hit, when it hit, stopped. The bait stopped halfway down. You got to really pay attention to that when you're pitching and flipping. When your bait's going down and you know you're in 10 foot of water and it stops at about 4 foot or 3 foot or something like that, and then you know that there's probably a fish on there because they're suspended in these trees. And when they get suspended like that, you know, a lot of times as the bait's falling down, they'll just reach out and grab it, and they'll either start swimming off or they'll just sit there with it. So you got to be ready for that. So kind of know the depth of water you're fishing in, because it's really important to watch that line as it goes down. Oh, I got hammered right there and missed him. Got him. Oh, that's a good one. That's how you do it right there. Had to get it in there and catch that fish. That thick stuff, that's where they're at. You just gotta baby it in there. Look at that. You know, I had to weasel in here a little bit and just kind of flip it right in there. I'm gonna see if there's another fish in there, but I gotta put another bait on real fast. But I'll tell you, that's the deal is we're going down this area where all the trees are, and everything looks the same, and then every so often you see a big, you know, lay down or something like that, and that's where these fish are hanging out in. So you want to try to get back in there, ease back in there, and try to flip in there a few times and see if you can't get bit. That was a nice little fish in there. That makes it fun. I'm gonna retie, and I'm gonna put on another bait, and we're gonna get right back at it. Up, up, up. Oh yeah, that's a good one. He started swimming off with that dude as soon as it hit the water. All right, you're done. Come on, Johnny. Act like it's your first time hooking a fish. There we go. Little guy. He's still fun though, man. I caught him right out of that thick. You know what we're doing, we're going down through here. All these trees look the same. You still got to flip, you know, as you're going through there and pitch in there. But I'll tell you, it's the stuff you see a lot of branches on or some thick, it's all that thick stuff right there. If you drop down in there is where they're at. But these fish, a lot of times what'll happen, like I said, you're letting it drop, they'll start taking off with it. Or a lot of times it'll hit the bottom. You'll pull it up once, let it fall again, or you'll feel that thunk. Now, here's the trick for today. Let me tell you, I'm throwing a little 3/8 ounce weight, but here's the deal. I put a little bobber stop up in front of it. You can see how I did that. I got a little bead because my thing is I like to hear the clack and all that. So I put a little, you can get a plastic bead. If you're using tungsten, a plastic bead's better than glass. Glass can break real easy. And then I put another bobber stop on there right at the knot. And the reason for that, and I'll retie, the reason for that is so that hard plastic or the tungsten doesn't beat up on the knot constantly. You actually get a little bit of a sponge. You know, it actually protects the knot quite a bit, putting that up underneath there. And then of course I'm throwing the Weed Pig made by Arizona Custom Baits in a green pumpkin. And I've got that paired up with a little 3/0 hook here. And the reason why I went with this kind of a hook, offset shank, owner hook, instead of the wide gap, was because this is so thin. When I put it together like this, it actually, believe it or not, looks a lot more sleek. My thought process too is when I'm done fishing these trees, if I have to, I can go out to this pebbled rock and start working this bait off that pebbled rock a little bit and maybe catch a few fish on this rig. So I'll keep it sleek looking. I got to put a new bait on, but that's the rig right there. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, if you're going to throw and flip in this kind of water, you need to be throwing 17, 20-pound test line when you're fishing in this kind of water, you know, to try to get them out of these trees. Otherwise, you'll be breaking off. You get a good fish on there, he can break you off. And what I mean by a good fish is anything probably 3+ up. They got enough strength and power to get you in there and you won't get them out of there. So you gotta have heavy equipment. And I've paired that up. This is my flipping stick from Taipan. I love this stick. It's like a pool cue, I'll be honest with you, but boy, when you set the hook, you got them. And of course, I'm using a 6.4-to-1 gear ratio reel so I can get those fish in and out of there pretty quick. So that's the deal. It's a Johnny Morris Signature Series reel. You can get them at Bass Pro Shops. And you're good to go. Fluorocarbon line. I don't use monofilament for this. I use fluorocarbon. And that's the rig. And you can see how long the handle is on this. And the purpose of that, so you can get a good grip underneath here and set the meat to them and get them up really fast. Got him. Right in that piece of wood right there. He's not a giant, but he was in there. He started swimming off of my bait. Never know what you're going to catch in here. Go from decent fish to little fish. Little buck bass. Man, I'll tell you what, that fish, if you can see, it was in that thick stuff. Even though he's a smaller guy, they're in that real thick stuff. And something else that's really important to remember too is a lot of times you'll have a big thick tree or something like that's back there, and you might have 2 or 3 bass hanging out on it. So it's, you know, it's one of those deals where after you catch a fish, you might want to pitch it right back in there because you never know, there might be a few fish hanging out on it. Oh, got him. Good fish. Come on. Hello, bass. Hello, Mr. Bass. Hello, Mr. Bass. There you have it. Now see, that fish was right in the V of that twig there, or that bush. Right in the V. You have to not be worried about getting hung up, and I think, being as a new angler, a lot of folks don't understand it. Bass, use this for cover to ambush their prey, these trees, and they like to hide out, you know? And so anytime you find something like this, the bass are there. So many people try to stay away from this stuff, not thinking that, you know, I don't want to get hung up, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not getting, I've always said this, if you're not getting hung up every so often, if you're not getting hung up, you're really not fishing the right areas, you know? You need to know you're getting hung up once in a while to be where the bass like to live. And this is the stuff they like to live in. And they'll sit there and just ambush their prey and try to grab those shad coming by. And the other thing that helps too is a little bit of shade. We have some shade on some of these lean overs. You know, these trees that are leaning over and bent over and busted. So we got some shade up there. I can kind of pitch it up there. See if we can get something out of that. That was kind of not the best cast, but I'm gonna let it follow through anyway. But I'll try to get there as tight as I can and get it up there like that, right against that tree stump. Nothing there. Now, being that I'm right here, I'm gonna toss right in that stuff. I'm gonna pitch this, or flip it right in there. Flipping's when you're pulling that line out, just like that, and then letting it fall right down into the little tight spots like that. That's the other thing that I think a lot of folks wanna know is when somebody says, hey, I'm out flipping, well, a lot of guys, flipping to them is what I just did. You know, they'll grab the bait. This is actually pitching. You know, you throw it out there and throw it along there. That's a pitch. So flipping is when you're up really tight and you're in tight quarters and you actually have to pull the line out like this, you know, about your arm length. And then you kind of pick up on the bait, and to get it right there by the stump or whatever, you just kind of ease it in there and let it fall. That's flipping. But when you hear somebody say normally, hey, we're out flipping, a lot of times they're doing that too, but a lot of times they're taking the bait in their hand like that and just kind of pitching it out there. Pitching it to the next tree, pitching it to the next tree. Because if you got room, that's what you're doing. It's only when you're in real tight corners do you actually really need to do all that flipping. Got him. Oh, another good fish. Over there in that shade pocket. Get up here, son. That's a good one. That is a good one. Get into these thicker trees. We came across the lake. Look at that fish. Come on now. We came back across the lake. I've been going back and forth, and nice looking bass right there. But I've been coming back and forth because I wanted to see if I could catch these fish that were on these laydowns. I saw some laydowns here, and I'm like, I'm coming back to this as soon as the sun comes up. A lot of times when that sun comes up, these fish will get it in that shade and get thicker into these trees like this. And I knew this area had it. There's a ton of fishermen on the other side right now, so I can't get to some of that water. And I thought, man, I got to give this a shot. So we came where they're not. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, one of the very most important things you can do when you're doing this kind of a technique is we have our reel set pretty loose where we can just kind of toss it out there and get it down. This isn't a casting type technique, so remember that. Have a casting rig if you're gonna go cast, but you don't wanna cast what I call beyond your means. Stay close, do not cast a long ways. Wait until your boat gets up there. Put it on real low, and wait until you can make the proper pitch or flip. Because if you try to make long casts, all you're gonna do is find yourself hung up and way back in the woods where you can't get to your stuff because the cast, it's harder to make a cast precise than it is to pitch or flip. Learn how to do that and it's gonna make you a better fisherman. That's my tip of the week. There we go. There's one out of that tree. Ah. Come on, son. Look at it. Come on. Hold on. There you go. Go back in there. Tell your buddies I'm here, because I want to catch another one in there. See that lay down log, man, that's something. You know, color is another thing that a lot of fishermen, there's a lot of things fishermen agree with. There's a lot of things that, you know, good fishermen will disagree with, or agree to disagree. Let's put it that way. But the one thing we all can agree on is usually one of your better colors to flip or pitch or something like that. It's gonna be like your pumpkin seed color, your green pumpkin, watermelon, red flake, watermelon candy, and those are pretty much the colors. Black and blue, black, something like that. We're throwing that green pumpkin. It's working good for us. It's a little bit darker color for this dingy water, but it's a good all-around color. I can take green pumpkin and I can go around pretty much anywhere and catch fish on it. So I've got a lot of confidence in that color. You know, if I had to go to a certain strange lake or something and go, man, I gotta go catch fish, green pumpkin's probably what I'm gonna pull out the box to start with. It's just one of those colors, you know, I have a lot of faith in, that I believe in it, and I really feel I can catch fish on it. Just a few good colors like that will get you started and you'll catch a lot of fish. Got that one. That's a good fish too. Oh my goodness. That's a good fish, folks. Come on. That's what you kind of expect to flip now. When you're flipping and pitching. Get out of there. Man, you got it good. Green pumpkin. Look how skinny that fish is, and look at the size of his mouth. His mouth's as big as my fist almost, and look how skinny that fish is. I'll tell you what, I'll let you go, bud. Here you go, watch this. Watch this. See ya. Straight down. I've had a great time on the show today. Pick yourself up some of them weed pigs. You'll have a lot of fun with them. And you know, just take your time with it. It's really starting to get hot. And when it gets hot, the flipping, the pitching gets a little bit better actually. So if you want to be out in the heat, you want to catch some fish, this is the way to get her done. Here at Alamo Lake, we've had a great time. Thanks for joining me on the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.